If you need paper for any reason, let me know and we'll make that happen. We've got Bohr structures. And Bohr structures are entirely based on where an element is located on the periodic table. So these are based on okay. I guess first things first, is this working for you? Is this helpful? Or jump in and let me know if you have thoughts about anything. Bohr structures are based on where elements are located on the periodic table. Bohr structures look like circles.
Everything that you're writing down, is it already in like the videos? I haven't got to watch it yet because I was at work, but I'm off today, so I'm supposed to be doing those today. But is everything, yeah? So like everything you're writing down is in the videos already?
Exactly.
Okay, so you're not putting these in your own words or anything. Like if I look at it, this should be it.
Good question. They will be very slightly different because I'm like writing it slightly differently right now. Like I don't have I'm not copying from the other page, but it's exactly the same content.
Oh, okay.
Great question. And thanks for sharing how it's going. And if you if you do this, or if you watch something and you're like, could we do it slightly differently? Totally let me know and we'll work that in.
And do you keep the videos up there for an entire week? Like, do we have to do it an entire week and then they're gone?
Once they post live, they will be there through the end of the quarter.
Oh, okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good questions. Yeah. Cool. Let's just jump back into it. But if you have questions or thoughts, totally bring them up. That's great. Cool. Okay. Okay. Bohr structures entirely based on where something is. And they look like circles. Easy way to remember that, there's an O in Bohr, and Bohr structures kind of look like circles, like that O. They show where electrons are. Okay, oh, that got blurry. So they show where electrons are. Electrons are on the outsides of atoms, and the electrons do all of the chemical bonding. So they're on the outsides and they do all of the chemical bonding. So like anytime something touches something else, it's the electrons that actually touch. Or anytime that atoms stick to other atoms, it's the electrons that touch. So if you touch an object, your desk or your device or your anything, it's the electrons that are actually like interacting with other things because they're on the outsides of the atoms. Electrons are on the outsides and they touch and they do the bonding. Electrons bond atoms together. Or repel them. You know, like if you look at any object, all of the atoms inside of that object are stuck together with bonds with the electrons, and also the reason that like you and this object are not the same thing is because your electrons and their electrons are repelling. So electrons do both of those things, keeping things together and keeping things apart. That's all electron stuff. Okay. So our whole goal here is to figure out where are the electrons. And that's what your Bohr structure is going to do. Your Bohr structure is going to tell you where the electrons are. They look like circles. We're going to be looking at a few things. The number of circles is based on the row an element is in. I just got kind of technical. And we're going to make a radical jump from where we are to this maybe something that you've seen in a class before. And if not, that's cool too. I think for here, I'm going to show you some stuff. And on the classroom post for today, there are 4 options. You can choose other options also, but you can choose an option that kind of like best fits you. And maybe bookmark it in a tab or something like that so you can find it later on. And wait. So, and this whole thing about like where the electrons are is not as tricky as it seems, because all we're looking at here is the row. Rows just go right across. Everything in the top row is in row 1. Everything in the second row is in row 2. Everything in the third row is in row 3. Everything in the fourth row is in row 4, row 5, row 6, and row 7. And that's that. So if we were to draw something in the first row, we would just draw one circle. So let's do an example of hydrogen is in the first row. So we are going to draw one circle. And we're actually, at this point, almost done. It's in the first row, so we drew one circle. The last step is to draw the actual electrons. We got the circles based on the rows, the electrons, the number of electrons. Number of circles is based on the row. Number of electrons is based on the column. Based on the column the element is in. I should write that in. Okay. So rows go this way. That's row 1. That's row 2. That's row 3. That's row 4. That's row 5. That's row 6. Wait, okay, good. Those are rows. Columns go the other way. That's a column. That's a column. That's a column. That's a column. If something is not printed, so as you will note, there's nothing printed here. If there's nothing printed, skip it. You don't have to worry about it. So for example, if you're in the first row, I'm just gonna zoom out and then move my Zoom stuff so it's not over my screen. Okay, there we go. So if you're looking at that first row, there's your first row. There's a whole lot of stuff that's not even there. And so we just skip right on across. So looking at that first row, we've got an element over here. We've got hydrogen is in the first row and the first column. But then after hydrogen, skip, 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 doop, 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 doop. There's nothing until over there. So your first row has hydrogen and helium, but nothing else. Same idea with the second row. If we go down to the second row, we have lithium and beryllium. Skip, 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 all the way across, all of that blank space. They didn't print anything. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. Just skip on across. So lithium, beryllium, skip, 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 skip. Now we have something printed. Now we have to worry. Like, now we're back. Now we're back on row 2. Lithium, beryllium, skip across. Boron, carbon, nitrogen, all these other things. So anything printed you do have to worry about, but stuff that's not printed, don't worry about it. Yeah, but actually that takes us into things way more complicated than we're doing at this point. Right now we are doing hydrogen. Hydrogen is on the first row in the first column. It's in the first row, so we drew one circle. It's in the first column, column number 1. We're going to draw one electron. And that's that. It's in the first row, so we drew one circle. It's in the first column, so we're going to draw one electron. And that is a picture of hydrogen. Should fill this in. First row, one circle. First column, one electron. Just to kind of translate that. First row, one circle. First column, one electron. And that's actually, in terms of like learning content, that's all the things. Everything else after that is examples. Let's do another example. Let's choose, somebody name a number from 1 to 20.
20.
Number 2, great. Let's do it, okay. Number 2 is...
Asia, did you say 20?
Yeah, I said 20.
Oh, you said 20.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Like, why not choose the top number? All right. On this giant list of things, which element has a 20 up in the top corner of the box?
So
Oh,
if
well.
this is,
I don't know.
so if it's like my computer, it's really hard to see the numbers because it's pretty small on my computer and I don't have a periodic table pulled up. So it might be hard to pick it out.
Thank you for saying that. Feel free to go to ptable.com, which is a great resource. I will share that. Oh, my internet's going really slow because I'm recording. Okay, I'm gonna go back to this because it's not loading, but feel free to load ptable.com on yours. Okay, I'm just gonna give you this because tech and stuff. So element 20 is here. And the way that I figured that out was because in each little box, there's, I'll post a whole video on this tomorrow, but I didn't want to get more stuff in today. There are, there's a little number in that top corner. That number is kind of the identity of the element. And we said element 20, so let's do it. Here's element 20. It is calcium. You might have heard of calcium before. It's in your bones and in your milk and in your teeth and stuff like that. Good. That's calcium. So we're going to draw a Bohr structure of calcium. Bohr structures are thinking about two things. They're thinking about how many circles and how many electrons. And you can kind of see calcium is actually a great choice because it's right over here on the left, and that is going to be somewhat helpful for us. Your first question that you're thinking about is which row is calcium on? And in this case, I've got it written right there. The top row is row 1. Second row is row 2. The third row is row 3. And calcium is right there in row 4. The row number tells us number of circles is based on the row. So if it's in row 4, we'll draw 4 circles. And to do that, we're going to do the example of calcium. It's in the 4th row. So we're going to draw 4 circles. And they're all going to kind of pile on top of each other like concentric circles, like stacking things. So 4 circles, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we'll add some electrons. I'm going to zoom back out to this whole thing. We're going to look at all 4 of those circles. Preview to the future tomorrow, I'm going to show you a method that's easier than this method, but we're going to conquer this one first because it's a good thing to have in the brain. Okay, here we go. So first circle's up there. That top row is the first circle. And in that top row, first circle, we've got hydrogen. Skip everything that's blank. So 1 element over here, skip everything that's blank. A second element over there. So on that first circle, that first row, first circle, we're going to draw 2 electrons because there's 2 elements in that row. There's hydrogen, skip, and helium. So there's 2 elements in that row, so we will draw 2 electrons on that circle. I'm going to show that. So here's our first circle, our inside circle. And there were 2 elements on that row, so we're going to draw 2 electrons on that circle. 1, 2. Does that make sense so far? If we were in class, I would do one of these. But jump in if you have questions And if you want to say like, yeah, that made sense, that'd be awesome, but you don't have to.
It kind of makes sense, yeah.
What was it?
It kind of makes sense, yeah.
It kind of makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. And don't worry too if you're like, it's mostly helpful for me to know like where I'm going next, if that makes sense. But yeah, great. That's a great place to be. It kind of makes some sense. Because guess what? You're going to see it a few more times. Because that was our first row. And we had 2 elements in our first row. And because there were 2 elements in our first row, we drew 2 electrons on that first circle. And now we get to do it again. Let's do it for the second row. Second row is the second circle. And everything in that row 2 has to do with that second circle. Now we have more than 2 elements in row 2. So off we go. We're just gonna count them. We don't even need to know how to say them. We don't need to know anything else except that they're there. So we're in row 2, which is our second circle. And we're gonna figure out how many electrons to draw by counting the elements. Off we go. Okay, so we have, I'm gonna say them, just keep track of them, but you don't have to. Lithium, that's 1. Beryllium, that's 2. Skip. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. Nothing there. Over here, boron, that's a 3rd thing in that row. Carbon is a 4th thing in the row. Nitrogen is a 5th thing in the row. Oxygen is a 6th thing in the row. Fluorine is a 7th thing in the row, and neon is an 8th thing in the row. Okay, oh, thank you. Yes. Great. There we go. How many electrons are we going to draw on that circle? Answer is right there. We're going to draw 8 electrons on that circle because we've got 8 elements in that row. We could count them again, or we could go with it because we have tally right here. We're going to draw 8 electrons on that second circle. So here's our first circle. Here's our second circle. Off we go. We're just drawing 8 electrons. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Awesome. All right. Let's do it again. We're doing element 20. There's going to be 20 electrons in this element. We figured out the top row had 2 elements printed, so we drew 2 electrons for that first circle, top row. Then we went to the second row, second circle, and we counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we put 8 electrons on that second row. Awesome. Now we're on to the third row. And you could, if you wanted, you could make some predictions based on how this looks of how many electrons are in that third row. Or we counted last time, we counted the time before that. We can count, you can count any single thing in it. Counting will always work. Yes. Okay, so let's do it again. We're on the third row and we're just gonna count how many atoms, because we're building up to calcium, which is here. It's on the 4th row. We're going to fill that 3rd row because we're done. We're past that 3rd row. So let's do it. Okay. Sodium is 1. Magnesium is 2nd thing in that row. Magnesium is 2. All this stuff is blank. Skip it. Here we've got some more stuff printed. Aluminum is 3. Silicon is 4. Phosphorus is 5. Sulfur is 6, chlorine is 7, argon is 8. There we go. It kind of looks like the second row. There's kind of like a little clump over here and a little clump over there. And just like the second row, there are 8 elements in the third row, so we will draw 8 electrons on the third circle. Rows are circles, elements are electrons. That third row has 8 elements, so on that third circle, here's your first circle, there's your second circle, here's your third circle. We had 8 elements in that row, so we'll put 8 electrons on that circle. Off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. 8 electrons on your third circle. And we're getting really close. We chose an element in the fourth row. We finished the first row, 2 elements on that one. Finished the second row, 8 elements on that one. Finished the third row, 8 elements on that one. Now we're on to the first row, second row, third row, fourth row. And we already know, because we already looked at it, that calcium is in the fourth row. So we're gonna end as soon as we get to calcium. So like everything after calcium, don't worry about it. And we're gonna do it exactly the same way. We're gonna start from the left. We're gonna count. And here we go. Potassium is 1. Calcium is 2. And we got to calcium. That's calcium. That's all we need. We can, like everything else doesn't really matter because what we are drawing calcium. So once we reach the element that we want, we stop. If we keep going, that's a different element, different picture. Here we're drawing calcium, so we're going to stop at calcium. All right, and on that fourth row, fourth circle, we have 1, 2 electrons. We have 2 electrons. First row, first row, first circle. Second row, second circle. Third row, third circle. Fourth row, fourth circle. And we counted 2 elements on that fourth row. So we're going to draw 2 electrons on that fourth circle. And that right there is element 20. That's a picture of calcium. And what's kind of wild is that now that you know that, you could get a picture of that and nothing else. And you could work backwards. And you could say, okay, it has 4 circles, so I know it's in the fourth row. It has 2 electrons on the first circle, 8 on the second, 8 on the third, and 2 electrons on that outside fourth circle. And with just that picture, you could say it has 4 circles. So I know it's got to be on the fourth row. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 circles. And on that fourth circle, it had 2 electrons. So on that fourth row, we're going to count in 2 elements, 1, 2. From the picture, you could say with total confidence, that's calcium. Is that cool? How's it feeling for you? Great. Oh, cool. Cool. Would you like another example?
No.
Was that a yes or a no? I have no idea. That was a no. Okay.
No.
That was a no? Okay. Either way is great. Cool. Do you think you could do a few more with you leading?
Huh?
Do you think would you like to do one where you speak and I draw?
don't know. My brain's like half asleep to function. Like, I don't know if that makes sense.
That's totally fair.
My brain's half asleep right now.
Well, I got it. So
Awesome. Yes, awesome. Cool. Okay. So when you are feeling ready, the next thing you're going to do is choose any 8. Here's a pro tip. The ones closer to the top are far easier than the ones closer to the bottom. You can accidentally get yourself drawing 7 circles, which is a lot of circles. I would recommend to not do that. But you can if you want, if that's your jam and you want to do that, go for it. But you're going to choose any 8 and draw Bohr structures for those 8. And do just like we did here. So write the name and draw the Bohr structure. And yeah. Would anyone like anything else? Any more examples, or you talk, I draw, or?
no, I think I understand.
Awesome. Yay. Cool. Great. Good. Well, we can wrap up whenever we're ready. Is this a good time to call it a day and see you tomorrow?